We'll talk about that in about 15 minutes or so with him. We'll also get into Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Action Jackson back in action last night after a 15-day layoff. Big win over the Dallas Cowboys. Big contract for Carson Wentz, fellas. I want to run through some numbers. We've been talking so much about Wentz this week and after the disastrous performance against the Packers on Sunday. We haven't really dug into the numbers. So let me reel off some numbers. I want you guys to hear. Jay, you're always into the business of sports. I want you to hear these numbers.
What about me?
No, for sure. See, you've done okay in your post-football life. I did okay.
He made a lot more money than me.
Good to very good. Good to very good.
What do you mean?
Telling people that's when people start. No.
Okay. So here's the deal. We're setting this up because there's a lot of young quarterbacks that could get a big-time extension. They've looked really good out of the gate the way Wentz did, but can you keep that play going? So here we go. Carson Wentz is signed for 4 years, $128 million. Obviously, that's not totally guaranteed, but the deal is at 4 years, $128 million. He is due $34 million next year. That would be the fifth highest salary in the NFL. If they cut him, Key has mentioned this before, the $59 million dead cap hit. There would also be an additional $25 million salary cap hit, which makes cutting him virtually untenable. We should mention next year, this is important, the salary cap will be $176 million or so. That's going to be down 11% because of all the coronavirus and the lack of fans. Here's the interesting number. On the third day of the league year, the league doesn't go in January, it usually is March, he will get a roster bonus on the third day of the league year. That roster bonus, if he's still on the roster, on about March 20th, will be $10 million. The Eagles are in financial hell right now with Carson Wentz. Key.
So, and what happens in that situation is there's three things that's there, right? You got the accelerated cap, you got the salary, and you got the $10 million that's due the third day of the league year.
Right.
So now you got to sit back, if you Howie Roseman in the capologist and all that, and figure out where the poison is at. How can we kind of navigate and lessen our poison? And that's the tough part about situations like this. You say to yourself, okay, can we push the $34 million, not the 34, the 50, whatever it is, $59 million dead money. Can we push it off until 2022? What happens if we push some of it in 2021, some of it in 2022? What happens? Can we split it? What are the numbers? But then you got to make that decision before you give him a $10 million roster bonus. Because once you give him the $10 million roster bonus, cash in the pocket. Do you want to pay $10 million to make a decision, help you prolong a decision that you need to make before the start of the regular football season and training camp if you've made a decision to move on from him? So it's all these monies in these pots, Jay Will, that is sitting there that they've got to now figure out how to divvy up to not hurt the long-term goals of the team. I personally don't think that you move on from him, you make him battle with Jalen Hurts next year, and even if it costs you $34 million, it costs you $34 million. You already gave him whatever it is that he's already received from you, which is probably a majority of the $100+ million of guaranteed money. He's probably received the majority of that. So now you say to yourself, okay, we're going to have a quarterback competition this offseason. We're going to have a quarterback competition in training camp. And now these two guys are going to prove to us that one of them deserved to be the starting quarterback. That's how I would handle it if I'm the general manager. I'm not ready to throw him away, but I'm certainly putting him on notice.
You could break down the cap better than I could. I don't have that experience. But I do want to go back to something that Zubin said before we went to our last break. He said Carson Wentz fell flat on his face this season. No, the Philadelphia Eagles fell flat on their face, right? And I'm sitting here saying Ryan Tolner, who's the agent for Carson Wentz, I'm giving him a standing ovation.
Carson and Jared, by the way.
Carson and Jared.
And Marcus Mariota.
Wow.
And Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Wow. get it, Ryan. I'm just saying, if you're sitting there watching, okay, Carson Wentz should be sending a thank you letter to Nick Foles for getting him his money to a degree, because Nick Foles is the one that won a championship. Now, I know Carson Wentz did a good job getting them to that point, but Nick Foles is the one that got the job done. I think that's a huge indictment on the Eagles more so than Carson Wentz.
Well, what the Eagles did in this situation is they didn't necessarily, it wasn't a panic move. What happened was they said that he showed enough, which he did. He showed enough to not necessarily get a contract extension, but when you show enough to an organization that you're going to be their future, now they show their hand, the organization. And the organization says to the agent who's smart enough to say, hey, let's try to get a deal done now, because the other guy in L.A. who we represent is going to get a deal done here in the next week. We may want to try to get a deal done, because if we don't get this deal done, those numbers are going to go up. So the organization is looking at it and saying, through 12 games throughout the season, who led us to the Super Bowl was Nick Foles. But if it wasn't for Carson Wentz putting us in position for home field advantage throughout the playoffs, we probably wouldn't have never got to the Super Bowl. He showed flashes. He's great. His deal is almost up. We can do it early on a discount opposed to later, which will cost you more money. And then they say, okay, Jared Goff's deal's done. Let's just do a deal similar to Jared Goff. Because if you wait, now that deal from the average $30 million or whatever it is now could become $40 million. And in a cap situation in the National Football League, unlike baseball or some of these other leagues, you now are eating up a large portion of that cap on one position. If you wait, it really will hurt you. And so they said, okay, we think he's worth it. We'll do it.
You're right. The old quarterback saying essentially is, who's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? I don't know, the guy that's up for a salary next. That's how it works. Everybody just passes another. When Wentz signed, and then Russell Wilson just goes on and on.
That's pretty
and on.
much at every single position.
Fair enough. So let's talk about this. Let's use the Wentz failure right now as a residual moving forward. Young guy, ton of promise at the beginning, then hit a patch of adversity that to this point he has not been able to overcome in 2020. So how does Wentz and getting the money as a young guy and failing at this particular stage affect some of these other guys that soon enough are going to be up for extensions? Let's go guy by guy, team by team, front office by front office for some of these other young studs. Totally understanding these decisions are made independent of Carson Wentz. I don't think these guys are worried about what Wentz is doing, but it does give you pause. It does give you pause. It's a ton of money. Remember, Wentz, $107 million in guarantees. So here we go.
107.
Baker Mayfield. Right now, from what you've seen, the cautionary tale of Wentz, understanding these are two totally different dudes in the vacuum. Baker Mayfield up for some big time money soon. From what you've seen so far, bullish or bearish?
I would have to sit tight right now. I have some protections in place. My protections on Baker Mayfield is his option year. I don't know what the number 25 million or whatever. I'm just throwing a number out there. Don't hold me to it. But I'm going to exercise a fifth-year option. And then after I exercise a fifth-year option, I'm going to see where he's at. And then once that's there, I'll make a decision after his fifth year what I want to do, because I have protections in place. I have franchise tags in place. If I franchise tag him in his sixth year, that number rises to $30+ million. Is he worth $30+ million? Okay, let's assume that he is. Okay, great. He didn't work out the 6th year. I cut bait. He works out the 6th year. We can't get a long-term deal done. I'll franchise him the 7th year. And if he decides to hold out, so be it.
So Baker was the first pick of his draft. The final pick of the first round was Lamar Jackson. They sort of bookended the first round, pick 1, pick 32. What do you think about Lamar?
I like Lamar. I try to get a deal done with Lamar, but not at the level that the quarterback market may be. Because I can't put
Which is what, Key? What do you think that will be?
That's that Deshaun. That's that Patrick Mahomes. That's that 35-ish, $40 million range. I'm not willing to go there with that. I'm willing to pay him high 20s, really, really low 30s. That's where I would pay a Lamar Jackson. I keep him right around where Wentz is at, right around Goff in that kind of category. Little less than Deshaun, but a smidget more than Wentz in Goff. A smidget, a sliver more.
So those guys.
That's just me. But doesn't mean I ain't hating on his money. That's still a lot of money. Just say that's just what I would do if I was running the cap for them.
Okay, so Wentz and Goff in the 2016 draft. These guys rounding out the 2018 draft. So you heard Key's thoughts on Baker and Lamar Jackson. Third guy here is Josh Allen. And real quick before you answer, when it comes to Baker and Allen, especially Allen, I know you can't pay for nostalgia and I know you can't pay for emotions, but there is something about the fact that the fan base really believes that, like, I think this is our guy. I don't know that about Baker. Lamar's obviously unanimous MVP. He's had a little bit of a dip. But with Josh Allen, there seems to be something about, we've been waiting for the next Jim Kelly forever. I'm not saying he's Jim Kelly. He's not going to play in 4 straight Super Bowls likely. But there's just something about everybody in Buffalo feeling like,
hey, Buffalo.
This is the guy. And if this is the guy, sign him.
Yeah, I'm gonna treat him like I treat Lamar. You're not getting Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott money when Dak's up and his deal's done. But I can pay you a sliver above Lamar Jackson. Just a sliver. But that's me.
When you look at it,
not giving him Aaron Rodgers money, man, please.
You got to do something to earn that money, right?
But he has done things. He's kind of re-energized the fan base, re-energized the team. He's certainly playing out of his mind. He has them get ready to win the division. But I can't give him $35+ million. It's just I can't do it.
We saw him in that wild card game. It was a valiant effort, but some boneheaded mistakes down the way. But look, the Bills missed the playoffs for 17 straight years. They missed the playoffs for 17 straight years, and now it sort of feels like it could be their division for the taking. That's quite the move to make here.